and I get about 50 messages a day about flat Earth. If people want me to talk about flat Earth or something like that. So I will talk about it. And so here's what I understand about the flat Earth. So I don't go by like what I hear on the YouTube or so much anything like that. Like I had this pineal gland experience in 2013. I'm plugging my charger in. And so I always go back to that. I go back to that experience that I had and the information that was into my whatever. And so I don't even know where all this flat Earth stuff comes from. I have listened to like tons of Eric Dubai videos and just a ton of other people that talk about the flat Earth. But the fact of the matter is that we're on a rock, and the rock is a rock, and if you were to have like a piece of pyrite or a quartz, and then you were to encompass it in a bubble, it would be in the bubble, right? There would be flat parts to it still, but it would be in the bubble. So we have these spheres around that chunk of rock that we live on, and so the pressure pushes down with the spheres around the planet, and we call one of those spheres that you can actually see on a regular basis is called the dew point. And the dew point is when you see like the cumulus, there's cumulus, stratus, and cirrus clouds. Dodge named a bunch of cars after them at one point. And when you see the bottom of a cumulus cloud, it's flat. You know, they call them the anvil clouds or like the mashed potato clouds. So that line is called the dew point. And that would be one layer of spheres that the water and water crystals and things form. And these spheres we have the ionosphere, the atmosphere, all these different spheres that go around the Earth and encompass the rock. So what I would encourage people to look into is the expanding Earth theory. Because, you know, they used to say the Earth was round, and then they said, well, maybe it's a little more egg-shaped, or is it changing? If the Earth itself, this rock mass that we live on, is expanding, which that's what Dr. Jeffrey M. King believed. He sort of subscribed to that theory, you could say. And so that rock would grow and pressure would increase. And so you have to ask yourself, right, like, is the sky falling? Are we getting closer to the sky as we grow? And this sphere that surrounds the planet is all around. There are holes developing and reverse magnetisms. According to like Moulton, Howe, and people like that, there are 9 nodes or 9 points on the planet where this magnetic pull is actually reversing. And I'm sorry about the bad connection. I'm in the. It looks like I'm in a city, but I'm in the country. Oh, hi. When I'm stopped, I can kind of read the comments. So when that magnetic pole is shifting, that's when other energies, intelligences, and some people actually believe spacecrafts known as like vortice, triangular crafts, pyramid crafts, and cloud ships come through. So we could talk about, like I said before, the sheriff's wife who I talked to. They actually had a house that they out, and she had a friend who lived near one of these vortex sites, and actually had they moved her because she said that there was like something coming through it, and they would not be specific about what it was. She was like, careful not to talk to me, because I'll just like tell everybody, oh my god, this chick said this to me. So she didn't tell me. There was definitely, it was enough to there like moved her into one of their rental houses. And I love Linda Moulton Howe. She's like the Tori Amos of the high strangeness community. So and she's just very intelligent and very smart, and everything is very scientific. She left the mainstream media, and she had a very lucrative career in the mainstream media, and she left it just to serve humanity. So I just love this woman. But in case she talks about these nodes on the planet, and the people that control these nodes, preserve them, manage them, would be like, you know, your Freemasonics. And that's where you get the Sonic part. And so these vortice sites were set up with brick build. This is all according to Linda Moulton Howe. She says these vortice sites were set up with brick buildings, and that these brick buildings would act as a power source to push the magnetic field back to its original state, to stop these other life forms and intelligences from coming into our planet, which were not benevolent. So she talks about these brick buildings would be energy sites, and they would have unlimited power source powering these nodes on the planet. So we're gonna go to the Visalia post office right now, and we're gonna check out this brick building, because it actually has the symbols on the ground. If you've seen my videos before, you can check it out, Visalia post office. And but really very interesting, because it is a brick building. I wasn't even sure if it was a brick building when I was listening to Linda Moulton Howe, and I thought, my husband and I were both listening, and we're like, this sounds exactly like the post office. This sounds, because it's connected to the vortice site. It's not like, oh, I think there's a vortice or something like that. But there's the St. John site is labeled that it has the vortice symbol, you know, actually on it. So very similar to the crop circle that had the alien head with the binary code message. So that is very interesting. So we're gonna drive by right now and check it out, because one of the things that's so interesting about our Visalia post office is it is nearly identical to the building that they used for the television show Supernatural. And in Supernatural, they're in a building, and I think a lot of the sci-fi shows have listened to, like Linda Moulton Howe, these people like that, and they'll take this information. But it actually is very similar to our post office, and though, I mean, even has the same art style. Whatever art style, you know, was really popular during that time. Somebody called it, I don't even remember what it was. It's very Egyptian, but it was just the Gatsby type of art, and so it's very similar. And we have Goshen and Exeter, which Goshen means this is the city of light, stairway to heaven, and then Exeter is the stairway to hell. And then you have Visalia in the center, which is the housing of the Judgment Day device. So this is, I'm not sure if I can turn it around. Here we go. Here's the post office. This is pretty cool. This is new to me. So here we go. We're at the post office. Pretty cool. So you can kind of see the brick building. But what's really interesting are these here. Do you see those? Because actually there's some videos where they've got people who have supposedly like had interactions with other intelligences, whatever, and they've drawn pictures of these time dilation devices, and they are nearly identical to this thing right here. And I'm gonna get turn here. Maybe we'll just go to St. John's right now. And so if you haven't checked out Stardust Ranch, check it out. Stardust Ranch is in Buckeye, Arizona. And supposedly the guy that bought the ranch really didn't know a lot about it when he bought it. But I was listening to the interview, and it was, you know, it's one of those it's like amazing when you're listening to it, because this guy is saying that he bought this ranch, and then he found out that it was the city, that town, and everything was related and directly connected to Egypt, and that at one point that there were these centers all over the world where Egypt actually controlled civilizations through these vortices or portals or whatever you want to call them. So, and he's talking about, basically he's saying all the same stuff that I was saying about Visalia 4 years ago, but it's just a little different because it's Buckeye, Arizona, and this guy's trying to sell that ranch for like $5 million, which is crazy. And I don't don't know if I believe all the different stories. I don't understand. If you had a ranch where aliens were coming like literally almost every night, why you would not put cameras up? I mean, I like cameras, or you can get a camera for like $5. You know, you can get a whole camera system for $20. So I don't know why he hasn't put in cameras. Kerry Cassidy, I'm not really a fan of Kerry Cassidy. She went out there, and I'm not a fan. I mean, I don't not like her. I'm just not a fan, okay? And so I talked to her once, and I just like, I don't know, she just rubbed me the wrong way, so I was whatever. But she went out there and talked to him, and he talked to her about these written sites and the relationship to Egypt, and the fact that Egypt used to control the entire world through these sites. Now, when Dr. Jeff King died, I got a lot of his research material, and in his research material was a disc that was just all ancient maps, like ton of ancient maps, and the ancient maps showed Germany as an Egypt, a site of each. There were many Egyptian sites or Egypts around the world, and so that is very interesting. And it was a trip to hear this guy talk about it, because it was identical to Visalia, and the illness that I mean, literally, I went to this site, and then 3 days later, I started getting, and I wasn't just a little sick, I was really, really sick, and it took a long time for me to get better, and to this day, I don't think I've gotten a clear answer of what I was suffering from, except that it was some type of spore. And I wanted to go to the Mayo Clinic. I actually called the Mayo Clinic and talked to them, and so it turns out this guy's wife had the same exact illness, and I mean, it sounds like the same illness, and they at the Mayo Clinic said everybody that gets that is terminal. And so so funny, I know it's so funny, but I actually went and saw Michael Jackson's doctor. Yes, the Michael Jackson. His natural doctor, who once upon a time dropped Michael Jackson because Michael Jackson wanted that propofol. So I guess he dropped Michael Jackson, but this is an amazing man. He's just a really great doctor, and he puts ozone, or what's like oxygen 3, into the blood. Pretty cool. And it basically sterilizes your blood, it attacks non-human cells. Some people say it attacks human cells too. I don't know, but it cured me. So, but it wasn't, you know, like, it wasn't cheap or anything like that. You know, the insurance doesn't cover it, you have to pay for it. But, so that was interesting, and I thought maybe I'll let them know about that doctor. His wife can go there, and she certainly doesn't have to be terminal. And I think it's $15,000 to have that treatment done. They do it on the border of Mexico, and you have to have the money up front before they'll even see you. And then after like the first month, I think it's $5,000 a month after that. Well, this doctor only charges $150. And then when he goes and the ladies take over, it's going to be like $500 a treatment probably. But he just wants to help people. So that was interesting. But I think that the more you get into this stuff, and the more you learn about the vortices and Egypt, like the relationship to Egypt to the rest of the world, and the fact that we really are surface dwellers. I mean, it's so weird to say, but it really is true. And you know, there's a lot of stuff I don't talk about in my videos, but I can tell you that when I had this pineal gland experience and all this stuff started to happen to me, I knew I wasn't crazy. I mean, I'm a little crazy, I love that, but I knew I wasn't insane or losing my mind or having a brain tumor or something, because I really went to the doctor, and they took tons of blood, they did all this stuff on my brain, they did all this sort of stuff. They thought maybe I had a brain tumor because I was having different symptoms, but I wasn't, and everything was normal. They actually said I was in superhuman health, and they just didn't understand why I was sick. And so when I was going through all this, there's even though I knew I wasn't crazy, because there was real things that were happening, and there were witnesses, multiple witnesses to things that were going on around me, and different things like that. Always my whole life, but around that period of time, very, very strong. And one of the things that happened grid, this Ark of the Covenant grid, the power seems to go out. It shorts all we have transistors below here and all kinds of crazy stuff. And I think I talked about it before. A friend of mine was, I think runner-up on The Voice, and he was telling me that because he's from Visalia, we're actually both from Birdland, and he was Birdland, and he was telling me about this group of people contacted him because they wanted him to take their information and write some songs and make some music about how Visalia was an ancient Jerusalem site. And so I'm like, wait a minute, I have to stop and tell people, people are like, who is she talking to? I have to stop and actually sometimes double check information, because it's one of those things where I've been doing the videos for so long that somebody, and then I realize, oh my God, like this person got this information from my own videos. I can't like verify my information with my own information. I never even realized that was an issue. But this was 6 years ago, long before any of this stuff. So I'm gonna turn you guys around, and hopefully you guys can see the park. So here we are. This is identical setup, what we're driving around in a circle right now. This identical setup is at Washington, D.C. And it has the Kundalini snakes going up and everything. And then I'm going to pull right here so you guys can see the symbol on the ground. This is where I had my pineal gland awakening. So there are people, well, this is where like it completed, I guess. I don't know how to explain that. Here, let me see if I can point, if you can see. Okay, so right here, there's an opening. There are 3 of these spirals all over this site, but right here, this one right here is actually open. So it's dirt. So you can take your shoes off and ground right there and get actual actual information, like downloads and stuff. It's pretty crazy. So that is one of the, when I looked it up and I started looking into it, it was connected to Astrum Argentum, and also connected to Saturn. There's a ring of 6 trees. So supposedly I read that when the moon is over the ring of 6 trees, that's when it activates. And this whole place is set up as the tree of life. It's a real trip. So if you're in this area and you want to do grounding in a vortex and see if you can connect with other intelligences, you definitely can. I don't feel like I can do with any other intelligences. I felt like I got a download. I felt like it was already inside of me, yes. And I'll show you. So there is